All right, everybody, welcome to our week 14. That's right, we only have about 3 weeks or so left, and that is including final exam week. Okay, so first I want to say sorry for any issues last week with the audio-visual quality of the video. I was experimenting using my laptop, just a different method, trying something new, but reverting back to this method, which is far better in terms of audiovisual quality. And I've certified my YouTube account recently so that I could exceed the 15-minute limit should we need to. Not that we're aiming to go 15 plus minutes with these videos. These videos are meant to just tell you what to need to do, be very short and concise. So without a moment to spare, let's go ahead and get into what is expected of us this week. First, not all of us turned in that second literary analysis essay on John Keats' Ode to a Nightingale. Some of you did send in rough drafts to check, so I appreciate that. That was a good move on your part. If you aren't letting me know that you need an extension or something's going on or you have extenuating circumstances, then I can't work with you. Okay. And if you haven't been in touch, and then all of a sudden you pop back in and say, "Hey, remember that essay we had due 2 weeks ago? Can I do it?" Okay. I'm not going to be as understanding, naturally. Okay. Now, I know we're all kind of thrown for a loop here with the world being in lockdown and the coronavirus and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm assuming, and I have to assume, that we're all continuing a pace steady as she goes. Uh, we're online now, we're on Canvas, we're doing the best we can. We still have our semester, still doing what we need to do. So while our lives are kind of thrown up in suspense here, we still have to complete our work and complete the course. Okay, so don't go to sleep on me now, all right? So a little come to Jesus moment there. If you ever need help, I'm a pretty understanding dude to a degree. I'm here to work with you. I want you to do well, okay? I want me to help you do well. It's my job. It's your job to do well as best you can. It's my job to guide you as best I can. So come on, help me help you, all right? For this week, we are having basically what's going to be our final unit, our final look at poetry before we get into discussing the importance of being earnest. The next couple of videos, I'm going to actually talk about the play in some detail. Stupid cat. In any case. Well, first, have you read the play? Okay. I'd really like to get a pulse on you all if you've read the play or not. It's only three acts. It goes pretty swiftly. It's funny. It's farcical. It's a comedy. There's a wedding at the end. Weddings, okay? Whenever comedies typically have a lot of chaotic elements, a lot of switching of identities. Sounds familiar if you've read The Importance of Being Earnest, okay? A lot of confusion happens in comedies, and this is going all the way to the Greeks through Shakespeare till today, okay? But there's usually a resolution at the end of a comedy, okay? There's clarity, there's resolution. Usually it ends with a wedding, okay? Or a union of intimate relationships in some way, okay? How does that happen in The Importance of Being Earnest? Okay. A lot of switching of identities, a lot of poking fun at the conventional customs of late Victorian England at the time. Oscar Wilde was very much an against the grain kind of fellow, okay? Homosexual, of course, 100 plus years ago, not exactly celebrated, quite much frowned upon, but he made his way. He was a sharp wit, the sharpest, probably one of the sharpest that we could find in English literature. So, what is he making fun of? Okay, in this play. It's not really a satire. It's more of a farce. Things are just being made fun of. Things are topsy-turvy. Things are being turned on their heads. Identities, customs, conventions. Look at what Lady Bracknell, I find what she says, a woman should do such and such. It's not just her, but I think you get a lot of insight into the what Wilde is poking fun at through Lady Bracknell. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to get too headlong into the importance of being earnest, but you guys should be reading it, okay? Do you have a topic yet? Remember, your topic selection is arrived at by looking at the big things we've talked about this term: plot, point of view, narration, character, setting, theme, symbol, tone, things like that. What do you find to be the most prevalent of those demonstrated in the importance of being earnest? Okay, that is going to guide you to select your topic. I personally am a theme guy. I like themes. I like ideas. Okay, symbol maybe coming in a short second, maybe character coming in a short third place, but I'm a theme guy. If I were doing a research paper on this is just me, I would look at the themes, the ideas running through this play. And it might help to prime yourselves, give yourselves a little brushing up, or maybe a little education in general if you don't know much about Victorian England. Remember, we talked about Victorian England a little bit when we when we discussed the Matthew Arnold poem, Dover Beach, okay? We talked about Victorian customs of how the world, how our faith in institutions, our faith in the church, in the Christian God was on the wane. And we had to kind of think at that time, well, what do we believe in now? It was a crisis of faith, okay? Victorian England was also really concerned with manners, with propriety, okay? Some say, and I'm one of them today, we're kind of experiencing a return to propriety of being very proper at all times. And I find that in the censorship culture that a lot of people espouse. You mustn't offend. We mustn't offend. No, no, no. Okay. So I find a lot of the strictures of Victorian England kind of reappearing today. There seems to be this kind of neo-Victorianism going on in culture today. Maybe you want to look at that in terms of your research essay, okay? Remember, the research is done by going through the library's databases. You could go through the literature, English and literature subheading there, and type in Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, okay? Or maybe the New Victorians, the New Victorianism in 21st century America. Maybe just type that into the general search bar, okay? In any case, I'm getting ahead of myself there. We'll look at that more in detail, but you should have read the play. You should have an idea about what you want to pursue for that final paper, okay? Due on the 26th. I should mention this too, this just in. I know I said we're going to get off of the play here, but we can't just yet. I'm sorry. Remember how I had said that since we can't do an oral presentation, that we would do a PowerPoint? Well, we can't do that even, okay? I ran this by the communications department chair, Miss Janine Morgan, my boss essentially, or one of my supervisors, I should say, who said, no, they still have to do the oral presentation. Well, how in the hell can you do that? We're not together. How can you deliver an oral presentation? And she said, here's what you do. You have to record your presentation and send it to me, okay? So this is an audio recording in your using your device, your smartphone, and you're going to send a media file to me in Canvas. This will be due on the 24th, okay? So it is going to be a probably a 5 to 7 minute oral presentation on the play. We'll get into more specifics about that next week. Again, I want to wrap up our final poetry bit, and we'll get into the play and the assignments in detail next week, okay? But you should have read the play and have an idea about it, okay? So the 3 sonnets this week, there are 3 sonnets I want us to look at, and they are, number 1, Francesca Petrarch's Upon the Breeze She Spread Her Golden Hair. That is on page 966 in the Norton, and I want you to do the question there. Okay? Remember, Petrarch is one of the earlier practitioners of the sonnet form. He's not the first sonneteer, but it's believed that the sonnet did emanate out of Italy, probably, if I'm not mistaken, Sicily. I could be wrong there. Petrarch isn't the first, but he's the big name that we associate with sonnets, okay? And he wrote a lot of poetry devoted to his beloved Laura, I believe her name was. Okay. So, kind of a lovelorn poet here. Definitely a poet that speaks to me. Throughout my life, I fall in love like that. Okay, I'm always under the charm, the spell of love and all of its permutations. So poets like Petrarch, Shakespeare, really in their sonnets especially, really speak to me. Of course, Shakespeare's talking about other things than just love in his sonnets, and a lot of sonneteers are, in fact, okay? So Petrarch, that question. Then another favorite sonnet of mine by John Milton, who wrote Paradise Lost, the great English epic poem, okay? He wrote a blind poet who was going blind at the time of writing this poem and Paradise Lost. When I consider how my light is spent. This is on pages 968 to 969 in the Norton. And why I like this poem so much, Milton was a religious poet. He was kind of a Protestant, for lack of a more precise way of putting it. He was very much a proponent of free speech, okay? Perhaps you would like to read his tract on free speech, Areopagitica, at your leisure time there. But he was, in this poem, talking about how it's incumbent upon each of us to know our God-given talents. And it's a sin, in a sense, if you don't actualize that talent. So God gave you a talent, and if you are not performing that talent, sharing your talent with others, you're holding out, and that's a problem, okay? And if you want to know what a talent is, it's not what we think of today as a skill, or something unique to us. It has its origins in the Bible, okay? And you have one of the footnotes here, footnote 9, in the Gospel of Matthew, okay? So if you don't have a Bible, that's fine. You could look it up in online, okay, just for some context there. But do read that. And the question there on page 969. And then we are coming back to William Wordsworth. We read a Wordsworth poem, one of our first poems in our poetry unit. But the world is too much with us. Okay, how we are turning away from nature, how the industrial age has kind of latched hold of us, okay, and we are moving away from the sacredness of nature, and it's kind of corrupting our souls, okay, mass consumerism, okay, this is echoed today, okay, certainly Wordsworth's poem is relevant today as it has ever been. The question there on page 970. Okay, so 3 sonnets, 3 questions, but don't forget 2. And those sonnet questions are going to be due Sunday the 12th by a minute before midnight in Canvas. But also don't forget this week too is your second in-class essay on Shakespeare's Sonnet 60. That's going to be due Friday the 10th at 8:55 a.m., as though we are in class. And remember that first in-class essay on Kafka, I gave you all an extra 5 minutes, okay? So it's open all week, okay? You could turn it in before Friday at 8:55, but go ahead and look in-class essays. It's there. Sonnet 60 by William Shakespeare. The prompt is there. In terms of form and content, how does the final couplet of the sonnet compare or contrast with the preceding 3 quatrains? Remember, a sonnet, a Shakespearean sonnet, and the couplet, an Italian sonnet, and the volta, there's a turn. There's a comment on the preceding content of the sonnet, Okay, what's the change there that the couplet introduces? How is it in conversation with? How does it rebut? Or how does it further comment on or complicate what had been discussed in the first three quatrains? Okay, so that is the prompt. Now remember, I can't, or maybe you didn't know this, I can't read a draft, a rough draft, because we have to maintain the semblance of an in-class essay to the best that we can. So I can't read a draft and give you any commentary. So you have to produce this thing and submit it. You have to have a works cited page this time, though, okay? Because you are, doing it. You're citing from the book, okay? You do have to cite from the poem, from the text, just like we would do normally, okay, with the line numbers for your citations, whether they be direct quotes or paraphrases. And you do have to have a works cited page. Okay, this isn't handwritten. You are typing it and submitting it to me. Okay, but I can't comment on a draft. Okay, so that's due Friday, the in-class essay. Two things this week: in-class essay Friday, Sunday, the three questions on the three sonnets. The one on the Petrarch sonnet, on the Milton sonnet, on the Wordsworth sonnet. Okay? Two things this week. All right? And then next week it is Oscar Wilde, The Importance of Being Earnest through the end of the term. Okay? I'm going to talk about the play in detail. I'm going to be a little more specific on the oral presentation. Remember, we do have an oral presentation now. You're going to record it and submit it to me by the 24th. That is a Friday. And then the 26th, your paper is going to be due. Have you looked at the requirements in files and course information, the main course folder? Have you looked at what is expected of you for the paper? Have you read the play? Read the play, please. Watch a televised version of it if you want. You could probably find a version on YouTube. Again, there was a version from 2002. I think Reese Witherspoon is in it. Okay. It might help you to look at the play. Of course, plays are performed. They're meant to be viewed as performances. Okay. They're on stage. All right. Maybe do a little background on Oscar Wilde. A Wikipedia article couldn't hurt. Maybe a little Wikipedia article on Victorian conventions, just to kind of get you into the mind space of what does Victorianism mean. Okay, who was Oscar Wilde? What is he talking about in this play? It's probably his most famous play. Okay, his most famous work, literary work, is probably The Picture of Dorian Gray. And if you've ever watched Penny Dreadful, there's a show on Showtime. It's a great show. A character from Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, is characterized in that show. Okay, so I'm blabbing on here. Two things this week, if you want to just stay focused on a week-by-week basis. The in-class essay on the sonnet, the Shakespeare Sonnet 60, due Friday by 8:55 a.m., and then Sunday, the three questions for the three sonnets. Excuse me. I hope you all are doing well. Wish you the best. Stay safe. Stay sane. Becoming a challenge, isn't it? And I will talk to you again next week. Come with me for any questions, guys. Any help you need, I'm here for you. Okay? Talk to you then. Bye-bye.